Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Karen Buechs, and tonight we have a great show because somebody I admire very much is here. He's doing a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people. Please welcome Town Manager Derek Brindisi.
Hi, Karen. I don't think I've been here for quite some time, but it's good to be back.
Well, we had cancellations. You know, it's like I'm trying to get Michelle Brady on, and we've missed each other 3 times, three dates, and couldn't do it.
Well, we had some tough weather in the month of March, so we're through that, and then, the election I think consumed a lot of people's times in the month of April. So here we are. I think we can get back to business now.
Yeah, it's been relatively quiet. I'm happy about that, and I think Deb is doing a good job.
She's doing great.
Yeah. I really enjoy, once again. So, but my first topic is this. I know the rules and how it should be done. Land acquisitions in regards to the selectmen when they go into executive session. Mm-hmm. Why don't you explain that whole process?
That's a great question, and I think that it's a timely question given the most recent vote on the land as farm property. But, the select board, as the executive branch of this community, under Massachusetts general law, can go into executive session for specific reasons. They can't do it for anything they want, but there are specific reasons. For example, if they're negotiating a contract with one of our unions, they can go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining. But to your point, another reason to go in executive session is to discuss a real estate transaction.
Because it involves money.
It involves money, it involves strategy,
contract.
It involves negotiations.
Yeah.
And so picture trying to buy a home, right? And then negotiating the acquisition of this home in front of everyone you're competing against, right? So that's why under the general laws, select boards can go in executive session behind closed doors, and then they can have those conversations. Now, one thing people must realize is that those executive sessions, we are required to take meeting minutes. Mm-hmm. We don't have to make those meeting minutes public until that reason for executive session has been resolved. Mm-hmm. So in this situation, now that the board has taken a formal vote publicly to not acquire Landers Farm, we will then have to provide all the discussions, everything that had taken place in executive session has to be made public. And so we'll probably do that at one of our, probably not next week, probably the week after that. But they have the ability to do that, to negotiate land acquisitions privately.
Right, and because there was a question, Kevin Canty and David Golden went to the Attorney General, and they asked, did we do anything wrong? Mm-hmm. And the answer came back.
Yeah, so Kevin Canty was one of our select board members, and David Golden, another select board member, both for different reasons have worked with the potential buyer of this property. And they have worked with him, and he's been their campaign manager at for various times during each one of their elections. In fact, he's their campaign manager now for David Golden, who's running for state representative. And so they both, on separate occasions, sought advice from the State Ethics Commission. Anyone can call the State Ethics Commission and ask for advice. Typically what happens when you call that office, you will speak to the attorney of the day, and you will explain to the attorney of the day what's going on in your specific situation. Assuming you have disclosed all the correct information to that attorney will give you advice whether or not there's a conflict of interest.
Or cause for action.
Right. And so if there is a conflict of interest, the attorney will tell you that you must recuse yourself from that situation. Or if there's not a conflict of interest, then the recommendation is to always disclose it. So the state has a number of different disclosure forms that they require individuals to fill out based upon the situation. Yeah. And so that's the advice the Ethics Commission gave David and Kevin. They both filled out their disclosures. They disclosed that this developer is a campaign manager for each one of their campaigns. And then both David and Kevin submitted those disclosures per the state law to the town clerk's office. And then each one of them in executive session verbalized their this disclosure so that the other three board members knew that they had worked with this developer in the past through various campaigns.
Yes, and I think both gentlemen, even though I've had differences with Selectman Canty, he would never do anything unseemly.
Right.
And neither would ever David Golden.
Right.
They just would not do that. Their reputation means too much to them. And that it insinuates that they would do something wrong.
Right.
Because out of the attachment. And that does not sit well with a person like me that knows these two gentlemen. You can have differences, but they've never, ever, to my knowledge, ever, and I would know.
No, I mean, both of them are professionals in what they do, both in the private sector industry and what they do as public sector elected officials. And, I have a lot of respect for David Golden and Kevin Canty, and they did the right thing. They did everything they were supposed to do to demonstrate to the community that there was no conflict of interest, and they disclosed the fact that there was no conflict of interest. And so, there's always this perception that, they could have done more, but they followed the law, they followed the advice of the State Ethics Commission.
That's right, and the insinuation is that they did something wrong and they haven't. We have a caller.
Okay.
We're taking calls tonight.
All right, good, I love calls.
Hello, you're on Talk of the Town.
Good evening, Karen. Good evening, Derek. I'm glad you brought this topic up. I spoke last night. I wasn't going to speak, but I got very mad when I heard all the allegations against David Golden and Mr. Canty, Kevin Canty. Now, as I said last night, I've been on committees and I've dealt with Mr. Canty, and I'm not a big fan of Mr. Canty's. And Mr. Golden, I've sat on committees with him, but never have I had any inkling to question their integrity. Those two gentlemen, they give a lot of time and themselves to the town. And unfortunately, we have the so-called fake news Plymouth Independent who loves to do, these big stories, and they get everything going and they drop it. They're not a newspaper. They're horrible. They really are. And it's a shame that they're allowed to, keep on going, because they're not. They're like Speak Out of the old colony. Oh, just put anything you want and we'll print it. Well, say whatever they want and they print it, and it's wrong. And Derek, I got to give you a lot of credit. You've taken a lot of grief at the airport, and I can't understand that the airport is on Plymouth property and how they don't want you or the town of Plymouth to have any say on the running of the Plymouth airport. It is our property. It's not theirs. And
that's right.
So I don't understand. I don't know why you had to put up with all that crap. And in fact, you put up with a lot of crap, and I don't think you should have to.
Yes, he does.
but that's me. And, you know, I've been on a lot of committees, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I'm sorry. You know, I thought when Deb would become chair, that kind of the board would mellow out, and it would be more, you know, cooperative to each other. Well, I'll tell you, Bill Culhane has got to go. I mean, I've never seen a guy who asks a lot of questions when he's been involved in politics for 30 years in this town, and I can't believe how much he doesn't know. And I believe he does know. And I think he's just doing it because he's parading to, the citizenry. And he also is, if I have a question and I needed to ask the town manager, I ask the town manager or the DPW or the fire department, so I know the answer.
Right.
I'm not going to sit in front of, the precinct 17 and say, well, you know, I'd like to know this, and if you want the answer, go get them. I'm tired of 3 and 4 hour meetings listening, and half of them is because of him.
You know what, Steve? I got to tell you, and people who know would understand this. Years ago, when the selectmen's meeting was not televised, it was a much better meeting.
Yep.
Because they would say exactly how they felt, and you could ask David Malaguti about this. Sometimes it was rock and roll, but they always respected each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They never walked away without that respect, and it was forgotten. And when they came back, they started from A again, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think some people do it for show.
Oh, he does. Culhane does. He goes to meetings. He was at my caucus the other night. He was at this meeting the other night. He was that meeting. He's got to get a life.
He has no life.
He's got no life.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks, hon, for calling.
All right.
Good to hear from you, Steve. Hang in there.
You had enough of me, huh?
I know. He feels
All right.
the pain.
Good night, Good night, you two. And you
Thanks,
take care.
Steve.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay.
I mean, those of us who know understand with one look or a movement what that person is going through at the time. And you're very stoic. You keep your mind right on that computer of yours. You don't look up or left or right. But you know what's going on. And it's appreciated. You're, as far as I'm concerned, the best town manager that was ever chosen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen, you've been here your entire life, and this is not an easy community. You know, we have a lot going on, even, compared to much larger communities like cities like Worcester and Springfield. None of them have a nuclear power plant. None of them have 104 square miles of roads, and
that's a biggie.
And 31 miles of shoreline, right? So there's a lot going on, very diverse, and I would say that some of the challenges that I face is because the community, for the most part, is very engaged, and everybody has an opinion, and we can't say yes to everybody,
right?
And sometimes I feel like I'm always standing between what's right and what's wrong, right?
Yes.
And so, and that upsets people because sometimes when I stand up to what's wrong, that is against what's been traditionally done in this community, and folks don't want to see change. So, the Airport Commission is just another example of standing up for what was wrong and trying to do the right thing for our employees.
And you did. You did. I'm so happy. Alan, who was the other fellow?
His name is Thomas Brody. So Thomas Brody and Alan Costello both got appointed to the Airport Commission last night.
Right. And I know Alan is a stellar person. He'll make a great commissioner. I mean, something had to be done, Derek. Not that you can change some of it, you can't, but at least they can listen.
Well, I actually had this conversation this morning with somebody, and I talked about what I've been preaching since the day I got here is that, we have a finite amount of money, right? And so to me, having worked in other municipalities, I'm a person that is very focused on core municipal services. And I remember last year when I got more phone calls, you got to buy the Atlanta Country Club and we can operate our own golf course. And I said to them, I want to be focused on public education. I want to be focused on public safety and public works. I don't want to run a golf course. That's not a core municipal service. And I said this back in 2023 when someone asked me, what do you define as core municipal services? I would say what I don't define as an airport. An airport is not a core municipal service. The airport provides no value to our residents in this community, other than maybe a couple dozen people who take advantage of that airport. It's driving no economic benefit to the town. It's driving no additional tax money to the town to help subsidize our tax rate, and unfortunately, the way the statute is written, under Chapter 90 of the Mass General Laws, the airport commissioners have a lot of control as to the operation of the airport. But what they don't have control of, per the town charter, is employees. Yeah. And that's where the rub came, when the previous chairman was mistreating a number of our employees.
Oh, really?
I stood up and I said, I'm not going to tolerate that. These are our employees, not the Airport Commission's employees, and they filed a lawsuit against me. So we'll litigate that, and hopefully the judge, puts a little bit more effort into learning what the general laws are versus the charter.
I hope so.
Yeah, the previous judge didn't put any effort into doing any real research on the statutes versus the charter, and ruled on an interim level in favor of the Airport Commission. So we are happy to litigate that because the town charter is special legislation, and anyone who's worked in government for more than a day understands that special legislation overrules the general laws, and so we are willing to take that on and try to prove our case. Wow.
Yeah. For years, way back, town meeting member, 2010, before that, I think they were still there. I think, how long have they been there, some of them?
Oh, there are some airport commission members. I know one served 24 years.
Yeah.
I know another one served over 30 years. I know some of them that their parents served as airport commissioners before them, so it became generational, right? And so, I'll give you a great example. We, in order to diffuse what would have been a tense situation back in 2023, I suggested we have a memorandum of agreement so we can work together in harmony. And one of the things that I asked the airport commissioners to do was to provide lease agreements. There's a lot of airport hangars, and they're generating revenue on those lease agreements. So I had a simple request: can you provide those lease agreements so we can see what's going on at the airport?
Yeah.
And to this day, so over 2.5 years, they still haven't furnished those agreements.
Why? Why do you think?
I don't know why, but that's, I think that when I started asking questions, that's when the lawsuits began.
Well, you can't have it both ways. I mean, they wanted it both ways.
Karen, I have even today met with some of our staff about some simple stuff of how, some of our processes, and it's puzzling that some of the most basic things we do as a governmental agency are being done incorrectly, the most basic things. And I said when I came here 3 years ago that it's going to take me probably 3.5 years to fix all the broken systems. And I've been here 4.5 years now, and I'm still working on fixing the broken systems. So I do know when I leave someday that all the systems will be fixed and that we'll be complying with all the statutes. So some of these things you're going to see at the fall town meeting that we just uncovered, that things weren't being done correctly. So
can you tell me?
Well, just something simple. Like there's a municipal hearing statute that has to do with how we handle, fire alarm hearings. And before you do that, you got to go to town meeting and accept that statute. And so the town never went to the town meeting to accept the statute. So we've been doing this work but had never accepted the statute. So little things like that. So we'll accept the statute, we'll put a policy in place together so that we can implement how we do those types of hearings. But that's just a microcosm of a lot of the things that we continue to make process improvements on. So I'm really excited about the future of the team that we're building. We have our new assistant town manager, Lauren Lynn.
Yeah, I was going to bring her up. Tell me about her.
Home run, superstar, all-star, all the above. She took over for Lee Hartman as the planning director.
Yeah.
So Lee Hartman, we all know, 37-year planning director. We miss Lee. And Lauren became Lee's successor.
Yeah.
And then, it was a few months after that, our former assistant town manager had resigned. And so I had a vacancy. And so every time we have a vacancy, I look at those as opportunities to do things differently or maybe make some improvements. And so I thought about a couple different reorgs and like how we could approach, the work out of the town manager's office. And we always talk about economic development, but we're just running in place. We're not doing anything about it.
Talk.
So, I went to the select board first, because I always like to have their endorsement before I implement any one of my wild ideas. And I said to them, I think if we truly want to have an emphasis on economic development, then we have to have an emphasis on it, right?
Yeah.
So how do we have an emphasis? We create the assistant town manager for economic development.
Love it.
So this assistant town manager isn't going to get stuck on grievances and dealing with collective bargaining and all that stuff that bogs down an assistant town manager. Lauren's job is, when she wakes up every day, when she goes to bed every day, is to think about what we need to do to advance this community's economic development agenda.
It's time.
So that's what she's going to do. That means there's more work for me because I got to do the collective bargaining, I do all that other stuff. But if we're really going to think about mitigating the rise of taxes and smart development, I know you've talked a lot about smart development over the years, Karen. Like, we need someone who's going to be laser focused on that, and that's what Lauren's going to do. Well,
that's wonderful. I'm encouraged. But you have that laser-like mind anyway. Coming from the service that by the way, have you retired yet?
I retired in April. That's how long it's been. We haven't seen each other.
Oh, jeepers.
I did. I retired in April.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Do you miss it somewhat?
It's bittersweet. During my retirement ceremony, there's about 100 people in attendance. And, I spent a lot of time talking about the people because the military lifestyle is one thing that is so unique, other than wearing the uniform and running around with guns. The thing that is most unique is that we are really a family, and you build these bonds with people, and you see each other once a month, and when you see them, like, hey, how are the kids? Yeah. How is it? Because you don't see each other. You see every 4 weeks, right? Yeah. What did you do the last month? What's going on this summer?
What's going on?
Right. And so I'm going to miss the people. I'm going to miss being on a military installation, and like that whole atmosphere is just totally different that you can't replace. So I'll miss all that, but what I won't miss is the work. Yeah. Because the last 2 years of my service, I served as a commander of a domestic response team. Yeah. Oh. And so we did a lot of training. I got a lot of phone calls Monday through Sunday. On top of this job. So it was taking a toll on me. And so I was supposed to retire this December. That was my goal. I was like, I'm done December. There's nothing that's going to stop me. But then a few things broke a certain way, and I went to my boss, and I'm like, listen, you guys seem like you're in a good situation now. If you don't mind, like, I'd like to retire 6 months early. And so had my family there. It was great. Had my grandsons there. It was a really good ceremony. So
How many years did you serve?
So I served 22 active in 3 years, like in this interim level. And 25. Then so my team, my 50-person team, is going to be training down at Joint Base Cape Cod in July.
Oh, so are you going to go visit?
Oh, they're going to come visit me. We're going to have a big retirement event for everyone who's retiring this year at one of the local restaurants here in town.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yep.
I've been to the base. My brother-in-law fixed the jets.
Mm-hmm.
And he was out on the tarmac for hours and hours on 9/11.
Yeah.
And he couldn't leave.
Yep.
They couldn't eat. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah, because at the time they were flying fighter jets out of the Cape Cod.
And I miss them.
Mm-hmm.
I miss those jets. I love them, and I was very sad when they left.
When they left, yeah.
But you have a military mind, and to get back to what you want to see, your vision, to clean it all up, to get it a well-oiled wheel. I believe you can do it.
Well, I know we can do it. It's going to take longer than I thought. Sometimes I say to myself, I'm going to put all this energy and effort in, and by the time it's complete, I'll be ready for retirement. But I will have left it better than I found it, and I will have left it to an individual, whoever the new town manager is, or new mayor. It will be in a place where it is a well-oiled machine.
Might not be a mayor, might be a council with a nice town manager at the head.
Yeah, you could definitely do a council, town manager form of government, which is very common throughout Massachusetts. Very common. Yep.
The mistake I always made was having a closed mind. Oh, it had to be a mayor. It had to be, And I know a lot of people want that. And it's not that I don't. It's have an open mind. Whatever you come up with.
Yep.
And it doesn't leave out people.
That's right.
I would never get rid of the village steering committees because they're the first to hear everything.
Right, first line of defense.
But it's going to be up to that council. I'm not running for anything.
I'm happy to hear you say that, Karen, because I have worked in multiple forms of government, and in this town, the only thing I ever hear people talk about, it's either town meeting or mayor, and not recognizing there's many other forms of government that should be at least explored.
Explore it and know the personality of where you live.
Right.
Know the personality of the people. If your goal is to change the government, you have to understand your people.
Right.
Don't force them into anything.
And you can have the best of both worlds. So I worked for the city of Worcester for 15 years, and the city of Worcester has it's called a Plan E form of government.
What is that?
Plan E. So that form of government is a city manager with a mayor. So they have both a city manager and a mayor together.
Okay.
And they have 11 city councilors.
But isn't that like a mayor and a town manager?
Yeah.
It's only just called a city man.
Right.
They would never go for city here. So you say town.
Yeah, it's the form of government. Right. You could have a mayor and a town manager form of government, where the town manager manages the day-to-day operations, and the mayor manages the politics.
Yeah, the politics.
Sorry. The town manager manages the day-to-day operations, and the mayor manages the politics.
Yes.
Works with the city councilors, advances legislation.
Yeah.
That's the mayor's role in that form of government, while the manager is dealing with the day-to-day stuff, the blocking, the tackling, making sure the streets are getting done, making sure our public safety is working appropriately, while the mayor's working over here, working with all the elected officials.
I personally know you don't like to get involved in politics. I know that. And I believe a town manager shouldn't.
Right.
So it's a tightrope. And either you got to keep your head down or whatever happens. It's sad sometimes because you want to help people and you can't.
Right.
I get it, but it breaks the heart. But I understand.
Well, I live in a fishbowl, and usually criticized more often than praised, and I'm okay with that. It's the job I took on, right?
That says to me they don't understand your job.
Well, right. Most people don't, because it's great. Like I woke up, I think it was Monday morning, to a really nice message from one of our residents who praised how vibrant Stevens Field was when he went there on a Sunday morning. The pickleball,
wonderful.
the tennis, the kids playing in the playground, and how well maintained it was. I mean, he credited me for that, but I had nothing to do with them. That was a whole committee that did that. That took decades. But it's those people where you're like, yeah, we're doing something special here in town. Because most often it's like, hey, you didn't plow my road fast enough, or my street light's out. And it's like, listen,
There will always be
yeah,
that.
you're always going to get that. And the only difference between this community and another community is we have just more of it, right? Because we're a big community.
Is there a hiring freeze?
So, I'm very conservative when it comes to the budget.
Yeah.
My first priority is to maintain services. And so how do you maintain services? Is you maintain the current level of staffing that you have. Because once you start to reduce staffing, you start to lose services. So because I'm worried about the FY28 budget,
I know.
I want to make sure that we maintain services. So what I recommended to the select board back in January 1st is that we have a hiring freeze for administrative positions.
I remember.
Not going to affect public works, not going to affect fire or police, but there are some positions out there that, hey, listen, if we maybe hold off on hiring one of our librarians for a little while, we can save that money. If we hold off and hire one of our clerical staff, like in the treasurer collector's office, we can save that money. And so, yeah, the others around, they have to pick up where things are left off. But we're not going to lose services when we do something like that. So that's the hiring freeze. I want to kind of maintain this through FY27, because if we say freeze 5 positions, that's a $400,000 savings. What people don't realize
that's
is
huge.
when you do layoffs. So say we laid off an individual who's making $60,000 a year. We don't gain $60,000 in savings because we have to pay
somebody else.
We have to pay the unemployment, and you have to pay the overtime.
Oh yes, that's
so I got to pay
true.
unemployment. So unemployment could be $25,000, $30,000. So laying somebody off, I don't gain $60,000. But if I don't hire that position, I gain $60,000.
You gain that.
So and the other thing too is, I don't get the chance to talk to all the staff. We have 500 plus employees, so I don't see them on a regular basis, and most often I don't have a chance to thank them. But what I don't want to see is I don't want to have a conversation. The only time I talk to an employee is the day I have to lay them off, right? So I work hard every day for our employees. They don't know that, but I'm working every single day to know that I'm working hard for them because to a certain degree, like the responsibility so that they have food on their table and pay their mortgages is on me, right? So we're working on some significant savings. We're working with the unions on some healthcare savings.
People don't think that unions give up anything.
They do.
And I know for a fact they do. They
do.
have. And they're going to do it again. And they live here. They pay taxes here. You give them their paycheck, they're paying taxes, they have a home, they're paying real estate.
That's right.
So I found them to be very unselfish.
The unions have worked extremely hard for the benefits that they have, right? And I can see why the unions aren't just willing to just give them up because, the benefits they have claimed over decades, over generations, right?
Generations.
So you don't want to just give those up in 1 year. So I can appreciate that, but I have to give credit where credit is due. The unions know that we have some financial challenges ahead of us, not a fiscal cliff, some financial challenges. And
I've said fiscal cliff. I don't know how many times.
We're not there yet.
We're not there.
We're at a fiscal cliff if we're talking override.
Listen to me. Please. We're not thinking of an override, are we?
No.
Please, that'll kill me.
But that's what I'm saying, that because this is if we will really have an override conversation, this is what's going to happen. Let's pretend we have a $3 million budget gap. We have 2 choices to fill that gap. We either lay $3 million of employees off, or we go for an override. And I can guarantee you, the first time we go for an override, it's going to fail. So that means we're doing layoffs, which goes back to my previous point. I refuse to do layoffs if we don't have to.
Yeah, but some towns say, good, let them suffer for a year without services. They'll vote for it the second time we put it out.
But to me, that's a choice of last
resort.
Yes, because there are things that we need to do first. Let's turn over every rock first before we start having those conversations. Like, let's look at state aid, right? Let's see how that comes in before we start talking about overrides.
And you did get a little bit more money than expected,
Right
little.
Right now we're tracking about a boost of state aid about $1.5 million. So that'll help.
It's better than a sharp stick in the eye.
Right, so that's good. We're working with the unions on some healthcare reform. So hopefully we'll see some savings there. And I've been working hard with our finance team on making some, what I would say, historic changes on our other insurances, property insurance, casualty insurance.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the changes that I'm going to propose will save us hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's a change. We're not going to be working with the same carrier we worked with for the last 40 years. We're going to go to a different carrier who is saying, listen, come work with us. Those guys are hurting you. We can save you guys $300,000-$400,000. So if you take $300,000-$400,000 savings on insurance, you get some health care reform.
Over $600 million,
next thing you know, you get $1 million over here, get $1.5 million from the state. You got $2.5 million in new revenue that you didn't know was coming. So that's why those are the things that I got Laura and Lynn focused on economic development. I got myself and Lynn Barrett, we're focusing on the budget, right?
Yeah.
And then at points we intersect, right? Because they do intersect. But that's what I'm saying, like, we can only do so much. So I can't do economic development and solve our budget woes, right? But Lauren can focus on economic development.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
So that's a type of manpower shift that we're thinking about doing, looking at the work ahead of us and divvying that work out amongst staff that have the skill set to do it. Because I want to be able to go to the FY28 budget on my first budget presentation and say it's balanced.
Oh my God.
That's my goal.
And starting July, is it Ozempic? The Ozempic shot is no more.
Yeah, and that wasn't really our decision. That was a decision made by Blue Cross Blue Shield across all of their customers. They basically came out nationwide and said that Blue Cross Blue Shield is no longer going to fund the drug is called GLP-1, but Ozempic is kind of the brand name for it. They said they're not going to fund it anymore, and it was costing the town side. I want to say we spent like $5 million this past year on that one drug. $5 million on one drug. So because Blue Cross made the decision for us, we had to drop it. We didn't really have a choice, because if we didn't drop it, we'd have to pay we would have paid Blue Cross's share as well. So that $5 million cost would have been like $15 million. So we had it. So that'll help a little bit this coming year. But and the other thing too that's on the horizon that was starting to feel a little bit of pain is just like fuel costs and utility costs. I mean, you're seeing it at the pump, the gas pumps.
Are you going to merge?
Merge with the schools?
Yeah.
Not yet. I mean, I've had lots of conversations with the school superintendent on places where we could consolidate services, and we just haven't found that sweet spot yet. But I think, over time we'd get there. I think Human Resources Department is a great place to merge.
What about fuel, though? I mean...
Well, we buy all of our fuel in bulk, so we're getting the best that we can. But because of what's going on in Iran, the costs are escalating. It's like, remember COVID, how expensive fuel costs were? That's what we're approaching. Yeah. So that I remember how large our fuel budget was back then, and then it leveled off, it came down, and now it's going back up again. So as we drop Ozempic on this side, now we're seeing our fuel costs go up on this side.
It's going to come down, though.
Eventually, we hope it will. They're looking at a peace deal, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, and in regards to the CPC can't afford much either. So my question to you is, the land that you've partnered with Bourne, $750,000 each, is it? From Bourne, $750 from us.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, that was a project David Gould was working on.
Okay. Is he going to get mostly grants through that? Because how can we afford it?
Well, the CPC, last time I checked, I think they still have about $9 million in deficit.
Yes.
Right? Borrowed money.
Might be 8 now.
Yeah, because I remember when it started a couple years
12.
ago, it was upwards of $12.5,
Yeah.
$13 million. So Lynn Barrett, and you serving on CPC, you guys have really throttled back
had to.
the spending, right? So focus more on let's pay down the existing debt. So, I think with the project that David's working on, and I think that's the one down by the Agawam River, $750,000 is an unbelievable buy for the property that the town will acquire. Yeah,
I agree with that, but I hope he can get grants for that.
But one thing David is a wizard at is getting grants.
I know.
David, I don't know how he does it, but that little department probably brings in the highest number of grant dollars in any other department. So if anyone can get grants to cover that cost, will be David.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
That's like Jenny Gristmill. I mean, what a difference.
Well, Jenny Gristmill is a great, I mean, this is a $17 million project. $17 million, everything from the Jenny Pond Dam and replacing that
the bridge.
to the bridge, to the fish ladder, and having the bypass.
The walkway.
And the walkway. But of that $17 million, the NOAA, federal government, funded $10 million of it.
Yeah.
So how do you turn away $10 million?
Yeah.
So that's a great, some of David's projects are amazing. David's working, him and Mike Cahill got the downtown Court Street project that they just submitted
I can't wait for that.
a $3 million grant application for.
Yeah.
And David's also working on a design right now for Town Wharf Way.
Yes, I got that here. So
I love that project. To me, that's going to be one of
explain it a little bit.
So when you go down on Town Wharf Way, so say you're at Tavern on the Wharf and you're headed east down towards Woods, it's very difficult to navigate as a pedestrian.
Walking and cars.
You have the metal barriers. You have the walkway, which is narrow with poles in the middle and benches uneven benches sticking out. You got the meters sticking in it, and then when you get towards the Captain John ticket booth, it just drops off, right?
Yeah.
You got a fire hydrant stuck in the middle of the thing. It's just a complete mess. And then what you don't see is the seawall. The seawall is not in great condition. So I went to David a few years ago and said, we got to do something about this. He goes, I know exactly what we're going to do. He says, we've been talking about this for years. So I said, can you make that a priority? And David's a magician, so he starts designing it. So he's in the process of improving that whole area, widening the sidewalk, getting rid of the metal jersey barriers or the guardrails, making it more pedestrian friendly, fixing the seawall, fixing all of the drainage underneath it, which people don't see. Right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of infrastructure improvements that people don't see. But because he wants people to see how great it is, he's proposing in this, I want to say it's like an 8 or 10-foot boardwalk that would wrap on the inside of that over the seawall and make its way all the way up to Water Street.
All right.
And so, to me, this is like phase one. And then eventually, over time, we will continue that all the way down Water Street until we get to the Mayflower.
Well, remember there was a proposal years ago. I was a town meeting member. It fell through.
The promenade.
The promenade. I so wanted that.
I was here as the assistant town manager when Jonathan Beda proposed one of the promenade pitches at town meeting. And at the time, it was $15 million.
I know.
For the entire project. Yeah. So the project that, the reason why I love David's project is because it is making it more pedestrian friendly and safe. and it's accommodating all of the new uses. So we have buses that stop there on Town Wharf Way.
Yeah,
so
they
people,
do.
so the school children can go do whale watching.
Yeah.
We have the American Cruise Line bus that stops there, so people
the
coming
boats,
off.
yeah.
So we're going to fix all that. But the boardwalk is going to be
Love boardwalks.
it's going to be amazing. So that project is probably a $5 million project, and
bad.
knowing David, he'll probably get $3 million from the Seaport Council to fund that project. So
I love it.
yeah, so basically, it's going to cost us $2 million to make that happen.
Yeah.
So that's a great project. That's in design right now. He's thinking that we'll probably write a grant in 2027 for construction money for that.
I hope I see it.
Have you had a chance? I talk about this all the time, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, but if you go down in front of what used to be the old Shanty Rose,
Yeah.
right? It's now called
I've
Shack
been
on the
there. I
Wharf.
just was there. Yeah.
Have you noticed the new sidewalk that's been installed in front of Cabbie Shack, in front of the Shanty Rose?
Yes.
That was something else that when we were negotiating a couple of years ago, because I live downtown, I'm always walking downtown, especially when I first got here, my grandkids were really small, so I always had them in a stroller. And I'm like, this is impossible to navigate. You got a stroller, what if you're a wheelchair user? And so I went to the DPW, and they already had this in mind, and we came together and said, what can we do about putting a sidewalk here? Because if you're a pedestrian, the only way to navigate that area, you have to go behind Wood Seafood on the boardwalk and then walk your way towards the Lofts Hut. So now there's a sidewalk on the other side, so you can just cross the crosswalk, get on the sidewalk, and navigate your way there. So
I did notice that.
it's great. I know it's a little thing, but those little things, my wife thinks I'm weird when I'm like, let's go check out the sidewalk.
I love it.
So, let's go check out the streetlights.
Yes.
But that's the type of stuff that will, it's a quality of life thing, especially for our residents, but certainly for our tourists.
Thank you, Derek. It does mean a lot, you know.
These are great. I love these projects.
Thank you so much for understanding that. Okay. Did you hear what happened in Red Brook Precinct the other night?
Are you referring to the 4-4 tie?
Yeah.
I did hear about it today. I was briefed on the 4-4 tie today.
Yeah. I don't think that's ever happened.
Yeah, so they need their 9th member.
Yeah.
There is a provision within the charter, and I can't cite it verbatim, but it has something to the effect that if a precinct does not reorganize within 21 days of an election,
that I knew,
that the town clerk has to call a meeting and then facilitate a reorganization. So I talked to the town clerk today. I would imagine that we'll get the 9 precinct members will get an email from the town clerk and call a meeting within the next couple of weeks so that they can appoint a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk of the precinct.
There's only 8 of them, isn't it?
There are 9, but the 9th member was unavailable that night.
Oh.
That's the problem, yeah. So they got to get all 9 of them in the room, and that 9th individual sounds like it's going to be the tiebreaker.
Okay. Now I have a question for you. It's rumor has it that a precinct chair, I'm not going to say the precinct, wants to involve all of town meeting in the budget process.
In the budget process?
In the budget process. All of town meeting. This is how it was said to me. I'm not varying from that. Mm-hmm. And, oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry. Did you really want to call? I don't know if she's watching. That was Betty.
Oh, tell her to call in.
Call in, Betty. What was I saying?
You were
That
talking
threw
about
me.
some town meeting member who wants to get all town meeting members
all
involved.
of town meeting, all of the chairs involved in the budget process. I don't even think that's legal.
I don't even know how we would do that. So, I mean, I guess what I would say is that if a town meeting member wants to get involved, there are many different ways a town meeting member can already get involved.
Yeah.
But one thing the select board is working very hard on is that starting in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
the finance director will provide a monthly financial report to the townspeople.
I'm calling her.
Yeah, give her a call. Just put her on speakerphone.
No.
I totally forgot you were on the show.
Did you want to call? Do you want? No. No. Derek says call in.
I'm not calling. I'm going to smack him upside the head.
She's going to smack you. So. All right, I love you. Bye. She totally forgot.
That you're doing your show.
Yeah.
So, but getting back to the town meeting members and the budget process. So the select board are working on a plan with the finance director on monthly financial reports. So every month, Lynn Barrett or the assistant finance director is going to come in. Right, is going to say, this is the current status of the budget. This is where we are. This is the actual. This is what we've expended.
Didn't the select board ask for this?
Yes, they did.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So I don't know what he's talking about.
That's the thing. So that's one way of they can get more involved. They can at least start themselves by being more educated. Another way they can get involved is assuming that the bylaw and the charter passes and we move town meeting to May.
I hope that happens.
One of our proposals as part of this elongated time frame to talk about the budget is, and I've been asking for this for 4 years now, so I'm happy that the select board is endorsing this, is to have, after I do my budget presentation, so I do my budget presentation, say this is a balanced budget, these are the numbers, revenues, expenses, then for the next 4 weeks, the select board will hold hearings where each one of the department heads will talk about their specific budget. And then, so the fire chief will come there and say, this is my budget. This is how many firefighters I have. This is my overtime.
This is what we're doing.
Right, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And then the selectmen can ask questions. The selectmen can say, listen, we think you're a little too high in the overtime. We make a see, the charter says it's my budget. So the select board would then make a recommendation to change the budget back to me. Of course, I would support that. And then I would then make the modifications, and then the final budget then goes hands off to the finance committee. So I bring this up because when you talk about town meeting members getting involved, they can watch from June 30th forward, once a month, a financial update. They can participate in the select board's budget meetings with each one of the department heads. And then once that is complete, the Advisory and Finance Committee, they also have budget meetings. Each one of their subcommittees then meet with the department heads and go through their budget. So my point is there are so many different times that town meeting members can get involved. They can get themselves more educated. They can ask questions. These are all public meetings.
I used to go to Lynn, you know, in her office.
That's another good way to do it,
And, I didn't do it often because you take her away from her time. You know, she's doing everything. So, but something real important, I would go down there. I'm just thinking of Lincoln Street.
Yeah, right.
When they were downstairs. In the basement. But, and she was always helpful. You know, she still is. Is she retiring?
So Lynn wants to retire soon. You know, I would say Lynn probably is a couple years away from retirement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we, and it worked. So one thing, when I came here, having been the assistant town manager, I was always watching from afar what was going on in town government in Plymouth. And the story that I experienced when I was in here as the assistant, and then when I came back, was Ed Bradley, right? Longtime fire chief.
Love him.
They didn't have a plan to replace Ed Bradley, so they had to get legislation to allow her to continue to work.
Yes.
So they didn't have a succession plan. So when I came here, I looked in the room and I'm like, okay, we now have a new fire chief, we have a new police chief, but who else in the room is, short timers? And Lee Hartman was one of them that we needed to have a deputy director for planning, which that's how we found Lauren. But that position never existed, so we created that just because we knew Lee was going to retire.
Right.
And then just this past year, we just hired for the first time ever an assistant finance director. So we now have a assistant finance director who's going to work with Lynn, who's going to learn under Lynn for the next couple of years, I hope.
I thought we had one years ago.
You may have had one, not in the last 10 years, because when I was here as the assistant town manager, we didn't have an assistant finance director.
It was before that. I remember.
Dickie Quinto told me that there was a time that, he goes back to 2003 when we had those major 9C cuts. He told me that a lot of the middle managers were cut during that time, and they just never came back. So
do you know how long it takes, when you cut, it takes 10 years to make that up?
Yeah, I could see that.
And because you can't hire everybody back
Right.
or new people back all at once. You can't do it.
Right.
And you crack the budget.
And you normally need some turnover. So, if we were to lay off a position under me, I would say, okay, well, we're going to learn to live without it. But then when the new town manager comes in, he's like, oh, we'll see like a weakness over here. And it's like, oh, we got to fill that position. We say, oh, yeah, we had that position 10 years ago, but because of budget cuts, we had to get rid of it. So I've seen that happen in a lot of other communities where new town managers come in and they weren't a part of those cuts from years before.
Right.
And then they see weaknesses, and that's another way they fill those positions.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's not
a lot to
There's
cut.
not a lot to cut because we have so many people doing so many different things. I can tell you right now that I don't ever see anybody sitting around socializing.
No.
Everybody's working hard because it's a big community. In fact, I would say, and I've said this in the past, like I think Plymouth is understaffed. For the size and complexity, it's understaffed.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the police department, they're so nice. When you go by them and you give them away, they're smiling.
Right.
And, I hear horror stories about other towns. How, take Attleboro. They're mean dogs over there. And but our police department is very professional.
Yeah,
as is the DPW and our fire department. They're all schooled and very professional. I've had the fire department to my home. They've been wonderful.
We have great employees. Like some people make mistakes. We know that, and we have to deal with those mistakes. But overall, we have great employees. We have great administrators, frontline staff, all the way up. So, I always say that I would take any one of our administrators and have them compete against someone from the city of Boston. I know Chief Foley, he could compete right next, shoulder to shoulder with the fire chief in Boston.
Oh,
he does
absolutely,
a great job,
absolutely. Police chief, too.
Yep.
I mean, it's a well-run town. Departments, they're sincere. You see them. And sometimes they'll be at a selectmen's meeting at 10:30, and then they're there in the next morning. No excuse.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah, Bill Coyle is a great example of that. There was a time back in April that, he was required by the select board to attend like 5 meetings in a row. He's there till 10:30, like you just said, 11 o'clock at night some of those nights.
And he has to go home.
And then he's going to drive home, wake up the next morning, and I would see him the next day at 7:30. I said, Bill, you didn't even sleep. I said, would you sleep 4 hours last night?
Yeah,
Yeah, but we have a lot of people that is working really hard for this town. So that's why I get upset when I see some of the criticism, because people don't realize the work that goes into running a $350 million operation.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Can you believe it? $350 million.
Imagine that.
I think 2020 ruined a lot for a lot of towns. You're feeling the bumps start a couple of years ago. It just, 2020 ruined everything, COVID.
Well, you're funny you say that, because if you look at the number of cities and towns that went for an override this past year, I want to say 70 towns asked for an override this year. I mean, that is almost 25% of, or 20% of the number of towns in the state.
Acushnet is going through it now.
And a lot of them, like you pointed out earlier, they're all getting defeated. But they're not. But they're going for overrides because Prop 2.5 doesn't work for them anymore.
No.
So
Listen,
it's a growing problem.
The hour went by.
It always does, quickly.
I love having you here. You're always very candid, very wonderful, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, Karen.
So I'll be back July 8th with Andrew Botteri. Taking a couple of weeks off here. You know, it is summer. I'll miss you in between. Catch me on Facebook. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome.